science.
And good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, around the nation, around the world. You are listening to Supernatural Realm on the VARA Radio Network, and you can find our archives just about everywhere, and including iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and just about everywhere else. Chippy, you there, buddy?
I am proudly here, my brother. It's been all too long. And I'm thrilled to be back with you, especially tonight, because we're going to blind everybody with some supernatural realm. We have the ideal guest this evening. This is something that is, it really resonates with us both. And, we've had some time to catch up on some things. Well, I have anyway. He's been up on it, but learned an awful lot, and I know we want to make it a little easier to understand some of the newer science and physics and theoretical stuff in those fields and other science-minded realms and spirituality realms that could finally answer some questions that we've been asking since time immemorial. And we're taking in that direction. But it's not going to be any more complicated than anything else, other than me. Let's tell you who we got. Thanks to the great Tim Roxbury here on Supernatural Realm Radio. Our honored guest tonight is the one and only Michael Monk, and he is a world-renowned healer and teacher of spirituality, metaphysics, and energy mastery, with a focused devotion to God. This is some beautiful stuff today. I think we could all use a little healing, especially me. Have you seen all the craziness in New Jersey? Giants and Jets, for God's sakes.
Pennsylvania, everywhere, yeah.
Football. I have to watch Timmy's Chiefs just to feel better. Anyway, we do need people like our friend Michael today. And his journey began in the late 1990s as he spontaneously received a powerful communication from the voice of God and an invitation into the Holy Spirit. Not the first time we've seen that happen with friends. A gorgeous thing to have happen. While mindlessly watching a movie, the presence of God descended into the center of his mind and spoke audibly with him for several hours straight. Shortly after that experience, he received his first miracle, which was a instantaneous healing of an open flesh wound. That's very hard to do. And he did it via prayer to God in the name of Christ. His left eye was grievously injured from a puncture wound and would have been lost had it not been for prayer and faith. And instead, it was healed instantly. These experiences set him on a spiritual fire and set the stage for the rest of his life, which is to be one of understanding God and the unseen world of spirit and spiritual energy. For the next 5 years, Michael satiated his hunger for greater truths by engaging with God directly through prayer and through internal dialogue with the Holy Spirit. During this time, Michael experienced many other reality bending miracles. My glasses are a little foggy, so forgive me. Via prayer, these miracles via prayer included healing of several others, revelations, out of body experiences. Something I've been dying to ask somebody about for a long time now, and weather altercations. So this fascinating man is our friend and our honored guest. So it is with a great honor to be back with my brother, the great Tim Roxbury, and allow him to welcome you all, our honored guest, the great Michael Monk. Timmy.
Welcome to the show, Michael. Great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful to be here.
What was your first out of body or supernatural experience, and what was it like?
Well, my first supernatural experience was God talking to me, and then the second was the instantaneous healing of the open flesh wound by prayer. Shortly after that, I experienced a couple other healings. It was about a course of 8 years from my early 20s to my early 30s, where the only path I had to seek greater understanding was the churches and the Bible, because it was what I was brought up with. So during this time, I would experience spontaneous miracles by prayer. I had a relationship with God where if I wanted to receive a miracle, I could ask God, is it okay to pray for this miracle? If the answer was yes, I'd get flooded with vibration and uplifting feelings. If the answer was no, I'd get a slight adrenal trickle in my stomach. And every time the answer was yes, I had the confidence I'd get on my knees and pray, and it pretty much worked every single time.
Wow. So prior to your very first experience, which, if I'm not mistaken, was during a movie, and though my first instinct is to ask what that movie was, I really would rather know where you were at spiritually before this first spontaneous experience. And
I was nowhere spiritually. I was raised Mormon, and I had left the church, and I owned a business at the time, and I was purely business minded and not spiritual at all. So I wasn't seeking; it found me.
And it sounds like, unlike a lot of people we've met over the years who found their spirituality or their religious experiences, there was usually something bad that would happen, so they were in a vulnerable position and would reach out.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that's not where you were at the time. This was just kind of a random thing to a business-minded individual.
Yep. I wasn't seeking at all.
Were you freaked out by the experience? Were just warmed by it? I mean, what was your initial reaction?
Well, it was mixed. The talking to God part, that really just excited me. but the instantaneous healing of the open flesh wound, that freaked me out as much as it elated me. I was shocked, like, to my core. And what comes next after something like that? Who can you tell? Who would possibly believe you?
Oh, yeah.
So I sat dumbfounded, looking in the mirror for like 10 minutes before I did anything else.
And sometimes that's the biggest thing of all, is you can't really talk to people about it because, that's a huge risk, a huge social risk. Remember, we working those paranormal conventions back in the day, and people would come up with their extraterrestrial encounters or spirit or ghost encounters or some sort of contact or healing experience that they couldn't talk to anybody else about. And they're kind of reliving it. You can see palpably, as they're telling this story, that they know the risk they're taking by sharing this with, basically a total stranger.
Michael, what about premonitions? Have you had any like dreams or premonitions of future events?
Great.
I haven't had premonitions. I'm not what you would call precognitic, but I have time travel to the future in the out of body experience, like, extensively, as well as the past. So I've traveled many, many timelines and seen alternate versions of Earth. But in terms of my psychic abilities, that's not the direction I lean towards as an energy master.
I sorry, Timmy. It's like me asking a question about wormholes. Hit my soft spot. In these out of body experiences and the places just today I saw this video on Michael Monroe, who eventually opened the Monroe Institute. He had his first out of body experience. Just a normal dude. Didn't particularly stand out at all. He was fine with that. But he started having, and you had already mentioned vibrations when you were talking about some of the healing and communicative events for you. But he mentioned vibrations without a body. And he also mentioned that these places, just like you said, past, present, future, they kind of all coexisted. And there were dimensions and different shades of dimensions, all including shades of time, if you could even use that term. I found it very difficult to describe, and you're basically saying in a different way the same thing.
Yeah.
So, you had me at hello. He expressed some of his travels in terms of a first level, second level, third level. I think first level is kind of out of body, but still, living people and, aware people in the same area. The second level was what you seem to describe, and the third level was like a parallel Earth, if you will, that didn't have electricity and dressed like they were in the 1890s. But aside from that, he basically found his doppelganger, if you will, his parallel universe body in this third level. But it was that second level that you just described. Do you differentiate levels, or is this kind of common to most all of your out-of-body experiences?
I differentiate levels for sure. There's the what I call the spirit level, which is most likely where you're to end up if you have a lucid dream or a light astral experience. And it's basically just like Earth. You are in spirit, you're a bit more free, but the gravity's still pretty strong. You can levitate, but not very far, not very fast. You can do telekinesis, but maybe with like a styrofoam cup, like nothing big. So you have more freedoms than you have here, but it's still dense and so close to Earth that you don't really have much ability or freedom there. Then there's an OBE that you can have from that, like you can lay that body down in the lucid dream and do your theta meditation and project out of body from that body. And then there's a massive acceleration that has like particles, and you feel yourself like zip up in speed, and then all of a sudden you're very powerful. You can fly at supersonic speeds. You can break planetary gravity. You can fly through the stars. You can walk through walls. You can shapeshift and do all sorts of amazing things, but you're still bound by the solar system.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's another level past that where you're not bound by anything. You're not embodied at all. You're in a pure orb of living consciousness, and from there you can explore the entire universe and completely break the boundaries of space and time. So time works differently when you're out of the body. You can spend hours or even days in another realm for like 5 or 10 minutes of time here.
Michael, are OBEs and NDEs the same thing, or are they very different?
Well, an NDE is a very intense OBE because in an OBE or a lucid dream, you have self awareness. Like you are aware that you're simultaneously a human asleep on your bed as well as a light being in another realm. But during an NDE, most of your consciousness gets ejected out of the body from the trauma. So you have a lot more presence. Everything's a lot more dialed in and focused, and the areas that you end up are more likely to be reflective of that higher level of consciousness. Whereas in an astral projection or typical lucid dream, the areas you're going to end up in aren't really nothing to write home about. They're interesting, but they're not quite the level you would end up in during an NDE.
What if you experience seeing a loved one or family member that has passed over during an NDE or OBE?
Well, that's happened to me quite a bit.
Mm.
We're all there. Every person on Earth has spiritual aspects that are in the lower realms and in the higher realms. So we exist simultaneously in the lower realms as we do in the higher realms. And we go there every night that we fall asleep. Our nervous system paralyzes and our spirit leaves the body, but we don't remember the information because we have to pass through the veil, which causes us to lose consciousness. So I've literally seen everybody there. Like I've seen people that you wouldn't imagine in a lower realm, like hell, for lack of a better word, like people that are very positively oriented on Earth, but they have shadows. They have when you're born on Earth, you're made multidimensional. You're scattered through all the realms and through space and through time. So yeah, I've met lots of deceased family members and also people that are a part of my everyday life on the other side of the veil too.
Could you just describe any of them as past lives of a current living person? Like, in addition to all of the ways that you have described, how you've interpreted.
I've seen some past lives while I was out of the body. I've traveled in the past and I've traveled in the future, and oftentimes when I travel, I shift bodies. Like I'm not who I think I am now. If I look inside of a mirror, I'm usually something that's native to the world that I'm on.
Mhm.
So that's just another example of how multidimensional we are
Right.
as human beings. We have an aspect in every plane of existence.
Would you see that more as a parallel body or a past or future body, or
Parallel.
past or future life?
Yeah,
Parallel body.
past and future is a third dimensional perception and one that doesn't
Oh, that's right.
pay to think in too much. As you start to raise to a fourth dimensional perception, you start to realize reincarnation and collective consciousness. As you raise to a fifth dimensional interpretation of experience, everything's in the great and spacious now. All lives are simultaneously. Reality is not linear, and you can see the summary of all your incarnations at the same time.
Wow. Okay, one more rude question, and I'm going to give it back to Timmy. I just,
All
you
right.
know, I'm old, so I want to get these before I forget. um, and I think I just forgot what I was going to ask. Uh, yeah, I did. I forgot what I was going to ask. I'm sorry. I'm going to turn it over to Timmy. I'll be okay. Yeah, this
I've
is
had,
just so amazing.
I've
Go ahead.
had um, multiple, about a half dozen surgeries in the last few
Mhm.
years, Mike. I've had
Okay.
two aneurysms.
Oh
Um,
God.
I've had a stoma put in because I have toxic megacolon. I've had two valves replaced. I have a defibrillator in. And
Dang.
one of those surgeries that I've had when I had my defibrillator put in, I had seen my cousin who had passed away,
Same one I did.
and I asked my surgeon if that's ever happened, if you ever heard any stories like that, and he said no. I'm kind of surprised that no patients have ever had near death experiences like that because my heart actually stopped for like 15 seconds because they wanted to test the
Wow.
defibrillator to make sure it was working.
Uh-huh.
And during that
And did
time,
you have an
I saw my cousin during that time who had passed on.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Wow. That's
Could
awesome.
it have been your cousin who went out of his way to catch you while you were at this one specific area that he could access you
Yeah,
more than you finding him finding you? Unusual question, but inquiring minds. But what do you think, Timmy?
what's that?
What, what do you think in that moment it could have been him taking advantage of catching you right when you were at this one dimension or area that he could interact with you?
Most definitely.
Is this the same one that I met in a, because he was always really, hot on the idea of you and he communicating and him helping you there. So that's what inspired the question because I know you both, you know.
Mm.
Uh, um, so you think it might be more him than you or more you than him? I mean, what's your gut say about that moment? Even though
Probably, probably more him. I would say Jim trying to communicate with me and make sure that I was okay and letting me know that he was okay
uh,
in that moment.
well, we're fortunate because of you. We have an expert we could ask. Uh, but I mean, knowing this situation, uh, his cousin had passed away, and I had a lucid dream within days uh, where I had met this wonderful man, and there was, you could feel this bond, this warmth. Uh, it was memorable enough, uh, and I don't have lucid dreams often. And then
Mhm.
a few days later, Timmy showed me a picture of his cousin, and it was him in the same outfit, the in the photograph, and it was stunned. And the cousin had this particular excitement because Tim here has been representing our paranormal realm, you know, longer than anyone I could think of.
Mhm.
And this was kind of a new and different way to appreciate his brand new home, you know. That's kind of where his mindset was, because he still hadn't really processed. So he chose excitement, and it was kind of already there in a way. So I'm filling you in with all this extra information, just to see what your gut says. If in that moment when his heart stopped, would it maybe be more the cousin that made that happen, or Timmy?
Well, that's a maybe. It could go either way. But yeah, it's more likely that the cousin found him because this was his first travel to that state of consciousness. So, but yeah, it could go either way. So there's no way to really know for sure, but it is more likely that the cousin found him.
Uh, so it sounded like he had a combination of his own question earlier,
Mhm.
kind of an NDEOBE at the same time. Would that
That's
be
not,
inaccurate, you think? You can tell me I'm wrong. I can handle it.
No, I'd say that's accurate.
I remember, Chip. I remember, when months before he passed away, I told him I was having trouble, getting tired and having trouble breathing a little bit. And he said, Tim, I'm telling you, you better get that checked out. You could have heart problems and not even know it. He said, you better get that, have that, get checked out and get tested.
Huh.
And I know he was very adamant and and stern when he said that to me. And I said, okay, yeah, Billy, I'll get checked out. And then I found out that I had issues after that,
Well,
years later.
yeah, and I could tell, from having met him in a different realm, well, that I'm not used to traveling. Uh,
Mhm.
for some reason, I did have 7 years of mediumship ability, kind of tied into a chronic pain thing, and lost it for the same reason. But it seems my spirit guides, at least in those days, had urged me not to try astral travel or out of body because I'm just too warm and welcoming of a soul. And I could
Yeah.
end up in a lot of trouble. But uh, the cousin, and just like he's got an older brother too, that, love him, very protective of him, uh, seeing him have some challenges that are normally, the kind of thing chosen ones uh, were born to walk through, and maybe that's a part of it. Uh, but it was, kind of like, I can only imagine, but how warm a feeling it must have been to be at one with the Holy Spirit. You know, uh,
Yeah.
I mean, there is a certain level. Uh, we know a man who helps people who have possession challenges, and I was with him on a particular case, and he said he was to bring God into the room. And the person that was the subject of the case did not notice any difference, but I sure did. There's no feeling like it that I could think of that we're supposed to have while, kind of alive and in
Yeah.
normal state of mind. It's indescribable, but there's no other feeling like it. And so, I could say that, the man indeed did what he said he was going to do. He's one of the better people in his line of work that we've ever encountered. And to kind of be by proxy of that was a great honor. It was similar to that recent time where I was doing healing on my boss, and I was kind of not at my fullest, but it was vital to me more than anything else that this man, have a break from his pains. And if I couldn't muster it naturally, as I had been kind of doing almost by accident, I had asked for help, and then boom, and you could feel this thing rush right through him, and it didn't come from me. It went through my hand to hit him, but it didn't come from me. And he felt it, and he turned around, and he said, "You brought the Lord into this." I was like, okay. Because I couldn't think of any other way something like that could happen. So probably an unusual question to be asked, from such a newbie and everything, but I am very attached to the idea of utilizing energy, life energy, faith energy, divine energy to help others, free them from pain or anxiety. It's almost like it feels like a calling, if I could have one, to choose. So I have to ask your thoughts, even though it's kind of a real bad description. I need a hand here.
Yeah. Well, the best advice I've found over the years, especially the last 5 years of living since I've been in devotion to God, is to let go of my desires, my hopes, my dreams, my goals. It's not like I don't have these things, but I allow them to be held in the oversoul, in the mind of God, which is infinitely more expressive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's where I'm at now.
That makes a lot of sense to me, because rather than utilizing this free will that we had, you just blindly trust that the Lord has your back, and you can have that blind faith with no doubt whatsoever.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Michael, what do you do to stay centered? Do you do oral beats? Do you meditate?
Oh, great question.
What are some of the things that you do?
I do a technique that I call heart breathing, where I spiritually connect my breath to energy. And once that happens, you can breathe from anywhere. You can breathe from the outside, you can breathe through your hands, you can breathe through your head, but I take a tube of energy and I breathe it into my heart, and I hold it there and I accumulate mass in the center of my chest until I feel perfectly balanced in the heart.
Do you think you could do that without having traveled to these different areas and dimensions and
Oh, yeah.
places where regular laws of physics don't work? Or you think you could just find it here on this level?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, the out of body stuff is just a small part of what I teach. Most of what I teach is how to experience the spirit while you're in the physical body, like how to feel it here and now in the physical world. So yeah, you can definitely have those experiences without needing to be out of your body.
Timmy, I love you, man. he finds the most phenomenal people.
It's great to be back on the air, isn't it, Chip?
It is, man. It's great to be back together on here. It's been a long time. Way, way too long. But
Mike, what's some of your most memorable out of body experiences or NDEs that you want to talk about, mention?
I've been to some very beautiful worlds. I remember one world that, in particular, where they lived alongside peacefully with giant vegetarian dinosaurs. So I was at a coffee type house that was overlooking a cove, and I remember sitting out on the patio, sipping my space age coffee, and watching these giant brontosaurus-like creatures just do their thing. And then I remember getting curious, and I was in my astral form, so I flew into the air and I stood right next to it. And when you're in spirit, you're in empathy, so you can feel other things as a part of yourself. So it's like in the Avatar movie, when they bond the hare with the animals, they can feel the animals. So I was able to feel the brontosaurus's breath, its heartbeat, its emotions, and its thoughts, and that was just absolutely incredible. I've had some interesting time travels. I've been back in time all the way to the dinosaurs, and I've been ahead in time as far as 3500 AD. And that was all very interesting. I also got to visit the homeworld of the Pleiadians, like their physical planet, not their spiritual light body planets, but on
interesting.
this world, they're physical beings just like us. And
Could you sense any
they were
gravity?
expecting me. What's that?
Could you sense any gravity difference? Or
Uh,
is that just something that doesn't happen with the kind of was it an astral trip or what?
One thing I remember about the world is that its atmosphere had a greater density. So when fog would roll in, instead of being a mist, it would condense into these little softball-sized white globes. And then when the sun would shine through them and refract, it would create all these rainbows. I remember that was incredibly beautiful. I was in spirit, so I could levitate, fly, and everything. But the Pleiadians I was with, they were in their physical
In their
form.
physical form.
So yeah,
That's
they
ironic.
were yeah.
It's like the opposite of normal, for people who come across Pleiadians.
Yeah, apparently they have a physical world too, and they also have light worlds, and yeah.
But also, wow, wow, that's gonna keep my head blown for about 2 years, Timmy.
Yeah, have when those experiences in the future. Was there any type of thing any warning signs that you got to the current to our world now? That, something we have to be
Um,
about or
Not
change?
so much to our world now, but in our semi near future. In 3500 AD, their technology was barely more than what we have now. So I was talking to the people. I was like, what the hell happened to you guys? You know, you're 1,500 years in the future, but your tech is like barely more than what we have in 2012. And they talked about the great robotic wars and said that they got knocked back into the Stone Age because of this great robotic war. So then I time traveled back to that, which was approximately 500 or so years before that. And mankind waged a type of world war with these death machines that they could inhabit with their consciousness, like they could become one with the machine. And
Nukes
these were
wasn't
just,
enough.
yeah,
Sorry, it's just because the Monroe gentleman, who was also a traveler like you,
okay,
was
yeah,
very aware of these societies that were uh, more apt to self-destruct than have
mm,
some sort of outside ending. Um,
yeah.
so building a death machine is like, nuclear armaments weren't enough. I'm just thinking that,
Well, they were like UFO type machines of living metal with instruments of death that a consciousness could control with their mind as though it was their body.
you think
So
it was
it
an
was
AI consciousness initially, or
no, I
a
think these were human consciousness controlling these machines.
Kind of like the
But
drones.
I didn't have a lot of time to really do a lot of research and data, but I did get to see some battles and I got to see a lot of the technology, and it
wow?
was pretty profound.
Do you
I,
think
I
these?
can
Do you
imagine.
think? Do you think these drones that people are seeing is kind of a warning sign to what's to come?
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's the primary reason that we travel to the future, especially if we see a negative future. It's because we want to avoid it. So, yeah, I definitely believe we can alter our course and not experience these tragedies.
Are you of any opinion that, since we were talking about Palladians, I watch way too many YouTube videos in my spare time. Uh, there's all these different videos about chosen ones, different kind of chosen ones. Some are um, based on religions, some are based on spiritualities, some are based on neither. Uh, and then there are channelers or people who have constant contact with uh, Arcturians and Palladians and kind of the bigger knowns, and all saying pretty much the same things. You know,
Mm,
there's a transformation going on, and if you are of the heart and mind to uh, be in service to others for a greater good, so others are allowed to feel things like hope or take pride in abilities they had no idea that we automatically already have, and that sort of thing.
mm,
Because there is kind of this very limited source that has incredible strength. Not sure where it originates, but it's in service to self. So it uh, wants power. We don't have enough resources to sustain everyone now. And they're of a very similar mind. Um,
mm,
but we have an opportunity, should we choose, to follow a divine voice and be in position to heal or enlighten or inspire others out
mm.
of their solitude. You know, our sense of community has been taken from us, and we haven't even realized it yet because we're distracted with these radioactive devices we're holding up to our head 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Do you get any sense that a Palladian or an Arcturian type of society, whether physical, light, or spiritual, would come and save some certain people on the planet? Or do you think
I don't really believe that they can in such a way. These are interdimensionally connected, and that's where the interaction can happen. I keep an open mind, but I don't believe in physical crafts that can travel from one planet to another. But I do believe in interdimensional crafts that can manifest as a light being or a light ship and make an imprint and interact with other layers of society through information, through channeling, through stuff like that. But I believe that each planet is a sovereign collective consciousness that is protected by metaphysical laws that prevents tampering.
Interesting. Is it have anything to do with free will, whether it be ours or that of another species?
Of course.
So it's kind of on the same level as witchcraft, because if you're even if you're trying to save somebody by interfering with the free will of another, karma will still come get you. Even if your intentions are pure. Interesting.
It's true.
Fascinating. Wow. Jeez. Michael, forgive me for saying this, but I love you too, man. This is incredible.
Appreciate you too, brother. Yeah, glad to be here. Good conversation.
It's great to have you, Michael. It's for sure. It's been a long time since Chip and I have been together.
Yes.
You're our first guest to have on the show.
Yes.
Since his return. So.
Yeah. And
excellent.
He couldn't have found a more perfect one.
I have a habit of doing that, Chip.
What's that?
I have a habit of doing that.
Yeah, I know you do. Always watching out for each other. It's a beautiful thing. And boy, the kind of knowledge that we are managing to find and the sources that are so beneficial to anyone who is lucky enough to be listening.
Michael, the floor is yours. If there's anything you want to talk about or mention, during the show, or you mention the work that you do or any of your experiences, feel free to.
Yeah, tell us about your teachings a little more, please.
Sure. Well, I do a little better with a question and answer format, but I can tell a little bit about myself. So I'm what I call a healer and an energy master, teacher of spirituality and metaphysics. I've been around since 2011 teaching publicly. I'm well known or made my entrance onto the stage because of my demonstrations of spiritual power like telekinesis and weather alterations and aerokinesis. I was one of the forefathers that started that whole telekinetic movement on YouTube by realizing that with expanded consciousness that we can influence things past the skin of our body. We can cause the wind to blow different directions. We can cause the wind to still. We can make clouds appear or disappear from the sky. We can move light objects inside of sealed containers with our energy, which basically just goes to prove that expanded consciousness is possible, that it's possible to step out of the nervous fiber system of your body through spiritual entrainment and begin to embody the space around you, to begin to feel things, all things in the world as literally being a part of yourself. And that begins to change the nature of the third dimensional experience to a constant spiritual experience, because you don't just walk through the air, you feel the particles of the air. You don't just see the sunshine, you feel it as it shines through the air as though it's a part of your body. So this whole world takes on a paradisical type of experience. And then once your mind has expanded through the consciousness expansion, through the radiating energy, you begin to have a mental effect on everything. Because in order to have a mental effect on something, you must feel it as being a part of yourself. Your mind must be connected to it. You can't just project and pretend and radiate. An example I like to give is if you sit on your leg the wrong way and your leg goes numb, when you stand up to try to walk, you can't walk. Even though it's your leg, you can no longer feel it, so it won't interact with your mind.
And
So the
it's
same
something
thing
that
is
you
true
create.
with the external reality.
Yeah. But I mean, there has to be within the spiritual thing some sort of vibration that is all unity, that feels that interconnection between everything.
Mhm.
Because
Well, I've come to found that the connection, the interconnectivity, is through the empty space through which the vibrations flow. That is the house of the consciousness, and what we use in empathy. That we share vibrations in order to uplift each other, to have vitality and emotions and sensations and feeling. But I found the empty space of the universe to be the connective tissue of consciousness.
they're actually calling that the quantum field now. They have a name for it finally. They're talking
Okay.
about it out loud. It's amazing. And they're tying sacred geometry and this vibration. I had this thing where, as uh, this meat suit that we had, we could achieve the vibration of love at its highest. But I always thought it would be unity. Take it a level higher because our planet's going through a more energy area and is increasing. I mean, there is, and part of that emptiness that you talk about is limitless possibility. That's how they're
Yes.
talking about it in physics. Currently, I never thought I'd live to see it. It's going to help us answer a lot of things.
Yep, I experience so much of what they talk about in their mathematics. I experience quantum entanglement. I'm able to feel anything beyond the skin of my body as a part of myself, even if it's not in my local reality. So everything already is quantumly entangled. If you're just in the right space as an energy master, you can make connection with anything in the universe and feel it within yourself and actually have communication with it.
Yeah, because you know it. That means I can do it.
Hmm.
And that's
That's
awesome.
right.
Because if you don't know about it, you can't do it.
Mm.
I met a man, a great man. He was the director of engineering at Stanford. And he invented this simple test. It was a water alkaline mix.
Hmm.
And he would get people at random from all walks of life and all levels and places to focus their intent on either increasing the alkaline level or the water level,
Hmm.
and had a 97% success rate by the time he had perfected that as a laboratory type test.
Yeah,
And
sounds legit.
he was such a beautiful man, and we have no idea what our intent is capable of. But learning the things that you have discovered makes it possible for anyone listening who can buy into it. That means
It
we can do it too.
it does. I teach a course that starts all the way from the beginning, that can take a person from never having had a spiritual experience to where within a 1 to 2 year period, they're traveling out of their body, they're telekinetic, they're clairvoyant, able to see energy, um, have all these spiritual experiences. And I've probably taught about 3,000 people since inception. And
Wow.
it's a great thing.
God
Anybody
bless
can
you,
learn
brother.
it. Literally, anybody can learn it.
I've had one question that's been burning in me that I keep forgetting to ask,
Hmm.
but I can't possibly let you go without asking.
Okay.
Because this Monroe fellow, as he was describing, these vibrations that just came onto him as randomly and suddenly as your experiences. Uh, I think he was a bit older when it first happened. But at the same time, in these travels, whether they be out of body or astral, whether they be first, second, or third levels, wasn't always his choice. Had to kind of bump his way through, kind of energize his bunny his way into being able to be in one place and consciously choose to take himself to another before he could really define things. But fear was the first thing that he experienced once he successfully left his body and realized consciously what was going on. Because the first few times he just kind of went with whatever was happening and didn't really give any thought, just gave it all feeling. But this one time it occurred to him and scared the living crap out of the guy. And it took him a while to pass through that fear. So, and for a guy who would love to do this, but was told years and years ago from his own guides, probably shouldn't. I mean, maybe I can now, who knows? But how do you get past the fear? Did you have to, or was it just kind of?
Everybody does. Repeated experience. I've had thousands of out-of-body experiences, but by the times I've had hundreds, you start to become nonchalant about the whole experience. You start to feel comfortable within it. So, yeah, there's nothing you can do about the fear or the excitement, either of which will break your trance and usually eject you back to your body. So it's a normal learning curve that you just have to go through.
And why isn't fear enough of a deterrent for you? I have to know this because I live in pain, so
Well, the OBE was one of the first spiritual experiences that I sought, and I think I'm in the largest bulk of the spiritual community. That the primary reason that we study spirituality is the last thing that we want to do is reincarnate on Earth. We want to grab the bull by the horns, achieve whatever it is we're supposed to be here, and not have to come back. So the idea of having to continue living physical lives, the fear of that made the fear of having an out of body experience just sort of wither to insignificance.
wow. Because remember, Timmy, I used to say all the time, I had a feeling this was going to be my final lifetime, and
Well, we can all only hope for that.
part of my journey
Sure.
to get to know some of my past lives, and there have been many from what I understand.
Oh, yeah, we're old souls as humans, every single one of us.
But I have also, especially as of late, felt a special connection with the divine, uh, seeing them in the same room with me, with me. Uh, Having audience. And that
Wow.
feeling that I couldn't describe before was there to connected. And I think what started it was I used to find earthbound spirits as a medium and cross them into the light, but I had to counsel them so they would know that they were worthy of the light, or that the reason that they're stuck and can't talk to anybody is because they're dead. Most of them didn't know they were dead, had no idea. Instantaneous death, you know, but lived a life where life gave them everything. So,
Right.
you know, and so the only way I could cross somebody like that, especially if they were very biblically minded all throughout that lifetime, was
Sure.
to bring the Lord to them so they could experience in real time their time, which is different than ours. And it was like this setup where there were angels there, and the Lord would walk through me only to make it easier for this gentleman who had a very limited willingness and belief to really have no choice but to actually see the presence of the very man there. And I remember I got really upset because I didn't, you know, the angels were kind of dictating how everything was going. Walked through me and I didn't feel a thing, you know. But once they connected, I felt that. There was divinity there, that same feeling that years later they were in the same room with, you know. And it was usually a trauma thing, surgery, or, you know, my wife dying, that sort of thing, where it's like, you know, it's about having the trust to know that certain things have to go for me to grow, you know, in the manner in which I'm duty bound or called to do.
Michael, we
Yes.
talked about old souls. So, you know, we're all old souls. Do you think that each lifetime prepares us for the next?
In a way, we're seeking that lifetime that won't lead to a next, but yeah, hopefully each life makes the next experience capable of gaining more wisdom, more enlightenment, having more positive experience. But that isn't always the case. It depends on how conscious that you live your life. But we're seeking one life that can connect to all of it, that can stand in a higher state of consciousness, connect to every single past life on the globe, every single future life, and bring it all back into one house, and to raise yourself up, and to exit this whole system entirely.
What about health issues? I've told you some of the things that I've been through. Do you think there's a link, there's a tie, there's some sort of connection with the past life?
How can I heal him?
Well, there definitely is, but the now moment has more power and significance than the future and the past. So it's like a two-way street. But if you want to empower yourself, past lives aren't the answer. The now moment is the answer, to change who you are now, to be present in this moment, to practice presence mastery, to devote yourself to loving God. And then you'll see, when your clairvoyance opens up, that your past lives change as you change.
That's what
So
the
as
cousin
you
wants.
change, so yes, you can work through your past lives, but it's an inferior way of doing it. You're far better off just correcting who you are
with
now, and all of that will change to reflect it.
Now, if you're aware that every single cell in your body is its own individual unit, and where it is purposefully for the purpose of comfort, and has these receptors that respond to emotional stimuli as well as survival and reproduction.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't know that. And it's our belief system and what people have been telling us really since the BCs that's been inaccurate, because we all have the ability to train these cells, because these cells, 50 trillion of them, are listening to a broadcast, and that broadcast is the subconscious mind, which is the supercomputer that has kept track of everything you've seen, smelled, tasted, touched, felt, sensed. And if you modify the message, then you strengthen that now moment. How do you feel about that state?
Could you phrase that a slightly different way? I wasn't able to follow at the end.
We're under the impression that we're victims of our genetics.
Okay.
Our heredity. It's been drilled into us for generations, for lifetimes.
Yeah.
When they're actually finding that's not the case. It's more about that emptiness, that quantum field, that empty space that you talk about, and the way that you refer to it. That has helped you quantumly entangle with things, in all these different places, and has taken you to places that most of us will never do. And that's where the truth is. The truth is, we are the creators of our own healing ability.
Yes.
Because even if you're sick and you go see a doctor and you go see support groups and friends and newer friends and social media sites and every single thing, ultimately it's you that flips the switch when the healing really starts taking hold.
Right.
And you've been in all these different places, brought there from the divine. Who are veteran creators? But that consciousness is this loop of possibility, limitless, endless possibility. That's the base of everything. That's the empty space. It's a field. It's not mass or energy. But it can affect mass and energy.
It's pure potential.
Anti-mass and anti-energy and all that stuff. But it starts with us. And wow. Did you see his screen?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
I'm
interesting.
kind of messing around with it a little bit.
It didn't seem it was you, but cool nonetheless.
Yeah, it was me. What are you doing, Mom?
The man is loved. It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, I and started to take courses, and now that we've met, I've got more courses to take.
Excellent.
But I want to be able to help him because it's been out of his control. A lot of things in his environment.
Yeah. Right.
And there's really nothing he can do about it. Even though he has the brilliance, the heart, and the character. to get it done. It's just not that way. There's a certain thing he's got to pass first. And I just hope it's not the mortal coil. I want to see if I can get there first. I also want to help my boss, who
Yeah.
is having more issues now with his lungs and this pneumonia than the hernia that has kind of slowed him down.
Chip, speaking of hernia, I have the option to get this colon issue totally removed,
Yes.
but there is a risk of getting a hernia.
Oh, you got it. In addition,
Yeah.
really? It's not bad enough that you got no colon. You have
And then
hernias.
And then when it is removed, everything would go through the small intestine, which would be all liquid.
Yeah. It just
Oh, I
takes
mean, it's a dang if you do and dang if you don't type of scenario.
it takes this kind of pain signal that is saved for what he would call those lower levels and just moves it to a different area of the body. It doesn't heal anything. It just changes where the torture comes from.
And then
I couldn't save my wife from that.
it'd have to open my chest completely up, and recovery would be fairly long. So I'm not ready for that.
I think people can help you. I think he can do it. Yeah, I think I could do it
Oh, good.
because there's that love there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just one of those lucky beginners, and I can't tell. Well, I can't. It feels like divine energy, and I can actually feel surrounded at the time that it feels divine. There are times where it feels like life energy. And I cannot really tell the difference other than what I'm interpreting outside of that particular energy.
Mhm.
Do you see a difference between divine energy and chi?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. Divine energy contains the presence of the Holy Spirit, and that's not replicable. There's a feeling and a peace and a love and a bliss that goes with it that I haven't encountered anywhere else. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
unmistakable.
definitely.
Like you said, once you experience it once, yeah,
Once you experience it, you know it. You know it's
you
there.
know it.
You
Yeah.
know it exists.
It's like the
Yeah.
smell of death, kind of the same thing.
Mhm.
It can only be that one thing. And that's unmistakable.
Yeah.
Interesting. Would you choose between a chi and a divine for anything specific that you can think of offhand? Like, let's say if it's a bone fracture as opposed to an organ, where the pain signals or the danger signals are not experienced as well. So the person might be unaware of it, but you could see the energy.
Well, I always do both. I cover my bases whenever I do a healing. I do some work as an energy master with the chi, and I do some work by calling on the divine and channeling the Christ consciousness and the God consciousness through prayer.
So it is, but now sometimes I got to ask you if you're experiencing this too. So because I need to know if I'm on the right track. But it's like, with my wife, I used to, I would have these meditations where I could envision the energy coming from my crown to be like this laser beam that's like this big around and has this impossible to ignore hum, that can only be, more massive than I could possibly imagine is actual. And I can use my third eye, which now has this kind of wrinkle. When I look concerned, you can see an angel form. It's like really weird. But I can use that to suction the pain out or start a certain flow, so I can do the rest with hands or other chakras if needed. If that makes sense at all.
Yep. Yeah.
But when I pull it out, the most common stuff feels like those pins and needles, like you just mentioned, the leg falling asleep. That it feels like that. Sometimes it's these cubes, that are like the size of ice cubes. Sometimes they're these hydrodecad, whatever a 12 level thing is, and they're huge. And they're a different kind of pain, but I see them and feel them and interpret them as different ways. And as quickly as I can, use all of my heart to convert that energy into the kind of energy that I can send throughout universes. So anything that it encounters will be improved at random.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yep, that's per my understanding.
Okay. So lucky beginner, I guess. Do you look at auras, chakras, meridians? When you're looking at people to see where they might particularly be affected.
Yeah, I can see auras. I'm permanently clairvoyant, so I can constantly see energy everywhere, and energy emanating off of objects, and energy emanating off of people.
Chakras, do you see, and do you use processes where you see them?
Yep.
Because to me, they look like what a clock on a wall, this round thing, but they're like clouds, and you can
Tonight's not just another night.
Sorry.
go clockwise or counterclockwise, as long as they're all following the same direction, depending on what the sense is of what will relieve where the upset is. Do you see meridians? I don't.
No, I do not see meridians.
Well, then I'm going to take it back to some mind over matter things, because
Okay.
that's kind of where you started.
Yep.
That and having hour-long conversations with God, which is pretty darn impressive.
Michael,
But you go ahead, Tim.
Michael, do you see auras?
Yes, I do. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It depends on my state of focus, but I'm constantly seeing energy everywhere.
What do you see on me or Chippy?
Well, it's difficult over digital, but yeah, it's and these are really small screens. But let me try.
Okay.
Okay, on you, I see green light accumulated in your shoulders. And on Chippy, I see a silvery light encompassing his body, and there's a golden orish growing out from it.
That doesn't sound too bad, Jim.
Nothing.
I'll take it. I actually saw your energies change as you were examined. It was
Yeah,
fascinating.
that'll happen.
I've never seen that before.
What
That's
does the green mean? Like
The silver?
the green.
Oh, the green. Well, it's more like what it means to you, but green is typically associated with the heart. Although you can experience any color in any situation, but uh, green being on the shoulders means that you have some either a desire to be healed up there or some healing currently taking place. Most likely, there's many things that it can mean,
Okay.
but I just have to take my best guess.
Interesting.
well, I gotta ask about silver and gold, please. Uh, and it's probably more what it means to me, I suppose.
Silver is receptive, gold is projective.
Huh? Uh,
Yeah.
See, I said gold to me is highly spiritual or divine,
Mhm.
but that's my interpretation. And silver is um, uh, growth, uh, transcendence. Uh, but I just I kind of am purposely setting myself to try my best to stay in those spaces.
Mhm.
It's been a tough season we just ended, uh, especially for me, uh, but no cakewalk for him either. And,
Yeah.
and not being there for him doesn't make it any easier. You know, lost my wife recently, uh,
Yeah, that's difficult.
and spent years uh, watching nothing else but her suffer. That's a that's a challenging thing. Uh,
Yeah. Ooh.
I am retraining my mind to have that faith, to build that bridge. So
Mhm.
I don't have to be in a place of weakness and ego.
Sure.
They got my back. I believe that. He was in the room the day I lost her. And he took her through her pineal gland because she had been about 12 and a half hours rigor, but her forehead was warm. And to me, that meant that it was divine or spirit that took through her pineal gland her essence into
Mhm.
her new home. And kind of confirmed some things to her that she was never allowed to believe within herself through life because messages drilled into her, uh, from an abusive parent. And,
Chip, you have any questions for Michael? Got about 20 minutes.
I think I'm on the right track. You can tell me if I'm wrong. It's a learning process. Just from a sense. Do you think I should try a different direction? Kind of a tough question.
I think maybe you're on the right path, Chip, though. Got to get you back on the air full time, doing your show.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
That's part of the healing process.
Oh, I always
There's
felt
something you have to
it
do.
was a calling because it took fear from people, and taught them things that their own abilities already exist. They just had never been told.
How long you guys been doing this show?
Oh, Timmy's been doing it longer than I've been.
11 years this month, actually.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I
consistency.
started in 2010 as a co-host, just as rude as I am with you.
Actually, you started out as a guest, and then I brought you on
Yeah,
months after that.
yeah. And my latest show, which I stopped doing when my wife had stopped breathing during a live episode.
Chip, you have to get Michael a copy of Even the Dead Won't Tell You the Truth.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. I'll make sure he gets one. Absolutely.
Tell him
Yeah,
about
it's a
that.
book I got published. It's a murder mystery, fictional, but it's rooted in the first person experiences of a spirit medium, who is the central character of the book.
Okay.
Plot wise, the medium's best friend from high school. When they were all in high school, the best friend was the big man on campus, and his sweetheart was the prettiest girl in town. They were the super couple through the entirety of high school, and the medium had this very deep connection to them both. And the pretty girl was the first one to know that he could engage with the dead, and she kept that secret so it wouldn't affect his reputation in town, and make him the town freak. So they all three had this tremendous bond. And the book opens, I would say, 27 years later, as our medium is at home during the day for whatever reason. If there's a knock at the door, and he opens it up, and it's a homicide detective. Asks if he can come in, and he doesn't really realize the weight of the moment until they've sat down, and the interview type of process started, and that freaked him out. It's like, homicide. Oh my God, is my wife okay? But it's nothing like that. We understand that you're very close to this gentleman, the best friend. He had just been charged with the murder of the high school sweetheart. And the medium wasn't even aware that they had even seen each other in over 2 decades. He had fell in love with someone else in college and married that woman. He's happily married. The high school sweetheart's name hadn't even come up. So he's like, no, there's no way this guy's not violent. He doesn't have to be. Everything's handed to him. He has everything he ever wanted. No reason for violence. It's not him. And the detective says, all the evidence we have points to no one else. Yeah, really doesn't look good for your butt. But the detective learns that he's a medium. The medium learns that the detective had particular issues with his father in life. Yeah. And so there's kind of a little bit of a bond there. But the best friend was never into the talking to the dead kind of stuff, but they were friends nonetheless. The bond was there, irregardless. So they survived even though they, had things that were beyond each other's comfort level. It was like this unconditional bond, like best friend.
Yeah.
And but now he's in prison. It is looking really bad for him. So the best friend asks our meeting if he could communicate with the murder victim to get some sort of alibi evidence because he didn't kill it. So the medium gives it a shot, but the medium's a little wounded, and sometimes to have a good communication you have to be open, right? And he didn't realize how traumatized he was, not having time to process the loss of this woman who basically saved his reputation. And so it was hard to start this communication. And when he finally gets an additional hint, it looks almost like she's implicating him. And he's thinking that something's off there.
Michael,
Yes.
tell us about the Metaphysical Church of the Tree of Life and how what that's all about and how you help people there.
Okay, well, I have two different outlets of energy training. One is the Avatar Energy Mastery Institute. I started that in 2011, and that course is focused entirely on self-empowerment through focus and meditation techniques to obtain clairvoyance, out-of-body travel, telekinesis, all sorts of metaphysical abilities. The Metaphysical Church of the Tree of Life I started 5 years ago, which is like a companion course to the Avatar Energy Mastery material. The premise being that if you are a multidimensional energy master in expanded consciousness, that you are capable of having a massively enhanced relationship with the Creator, with God, far more so than a regular human who does not have the extrasensory perception. So in the Metaphysical Church of the Tree of Life, we teach techniques to combine the energy mastery with not only your relationship with God, but with your relationship with collective consciousness and with the natural world around you. So the Metaphysical Church of the Tree of Life is more now that you are an energy master, like what do you do with it? How do you enhance every aspect of your life with it? Whereas the Avatar Energy Mastery is just straight techniques of self-becoming.
You mentioned mind over matter and take that even to further places. So there,
Yes.
as I imagine we have to reach a higher level before we even attempt to do any of that stuff.
Well, I've learned that when you combine the energy mastery with the devotion to God, that you grow so much faster than if you keep it all on your own.
God, that makes so much sense.
How do you know if you have ESP then? How do you know if you
Because you can sense information that's above and below the rainbow spectrum of sight, that's above and below the range of the human ear. You can feel things past the skin of your body. You can smell things that are in other places. Like it just starts to happen. There's many different forms of extrasensory perception, but they're all taught in my energy mastery course, and they're all rather easy to learn.
Yeah, but there's always ways to affirm it, so you know it's not your imagination. So that helps.
Yep.
Michael, does it help to do meditations to help bring that and enhance those abilities?
Well, I teach two different disciplines for obtaining higher consciousness. One is meditation and one is focus. And these are just terminologies that I use. So in meditation, you're seeking to lower the brain waves, to reduce the consciousness, to ignore the data, the sensory data happening inside of the body so that you can contain a connection to your spirit. The other side of the formula is focus exercises where you work on raising your brain waves even higher and hyper examining, hyper focusing what's going on in your body through the electrical system. And if you can focus enough to encompass all that sensory data, then there becomes room left over for your awareness to leapfrog into spirit. So next thing you know, you're able to feel the physical sensations and the spiritual sensations at the same time through the practice of the focus exercises.
So you help people with discipline of, get strengthen their abilities then.
Yep, from A to Z, how to meditate, how to become clairvoyant, how to see energy, how to travel out of the body, all of it. It's a comprehensive course in energy mastery that if you go through the whole thing, it's about a 2-year course.
Does meditation and grounding help with that?
Oh yeah, big time. They all factor in.
But taking the focus, that's a rare thing. That's a rare thing.
Yeah, focus is intense. Focus is where it's at, though. That's presence mastery. That's being here. That's the power of now. Be focused on what you're feeling in the moment, and if you can do that, then powerful things open up. A physical experience becomes a spiritual experience with enough focus.
Yeah, and it helps answer the earlier question because if you can do both, then it's a wider range of extrasensory capabilities that come
That's right.
with that.
Yeah.
Because
Most
sometimes
certainly
it's
can do
more
both.
effective. Yeah, sometimes it's more effective to raise your energy in order to meet certain things. Sometimes it's better to lower your energy in order to embrace certain things.
Yeah,
So,
that's right. Yep.
and it also adds to the limits of our senses, each sense. We can see a
Right.
limited amount, but that doing both will increase your
Yeah, both in both
overall
directions. Yep.
sensory abilities.
And meditation and
Very
grounding
good.
helps with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have to commend you. That's rare. I mean, I'm not sure I've ever encountered anybody that did both at the same time. And I don't think it's because I've asked a limited amount of people. I just think that's pretty amazing.
Michael, what's some of the exercises you can do to help you focus and help you meditate?
Well, the biggest part of focus is what I call presence mastery, and that involves subtracting your awareness from other things and making your awareness singular on one thing. So the big thing is to come out of your mind, to step out of your thoughts about the past, the future. He said, she said, got to do this, got to do that. That's a given. You got to pull all of that out. And then you got to focus on what you're feeling now. Like if you're breathing with your chakras and breathing with your heart, you're going to start to accumulate energy in the chest. Well, you need to focus exclusively on that energy to all other things. And as you do, your mental presence will begin to embody stronger and stronger within that energy, and it'll begin to multiply and fan out. So, yeah, focus is subtracting awareness from other places and adding it to a singular place for the purpose of transcending your perception of that thing.
You stop thinking because as long as you're thinking, you're not listening.
Right. You feel.
Yeah.
That's how you focus, as you feel.
Yeah. Amazing.
That's sometimes difficult to do, though, to clear your
Well,
mind.
Oh,
hey,
it's
great things
it's
don't
very
come easy.
difficult at first, but it develops over time and it becomes natural. Trust me.
A lot of
But yes, it's
self-discipline.
not
Yeah,
easy at first.
yeah, a lot of self-discipline doing that.
Well,
Yeah.
but it helps because the further up the ladder you get, the more exponential the speed, because the
Yep.
determination is made so clear that outside forces unseen can see it and they help. And
Hmm.
then you're not doing all the work anymore. And you can feel the help, and it increases your confidence, which increases everything. Because as long as you believe you're doing it, you're
Is
doing
yeah, is it better to do at night when everything's calmer?
There's different exercises that are better to do at different times. Some exercises you want to do when you're more awake and more alert and more aware. Some exercises you want to do under sunlight or out in the nature. Some exercises you want to do when you're more diminished and more sleepy and more tired. So it depends on the exercises. But the Energy Mastery course is broken into three different levels. There's Awakening, Advanced, and Mastery, and each one has 7 different primary lesson groups with multiple exercises within it. So some of them, it's different. That they're all different.
it. Yeah, and it puts you in
And
different environments too, which
yes,
increases the possibilities of everything.
yep.
See, a lot of people don't do that. That's impressive. That's impressive.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Now, bless you, man. Wow. This is like I'm having an in body, out of body experience just by being.
Michael, some of
Yeah,
the testimonials on your website are phenomenal. I mean, these people, some of these people really have had good experiences with your teachings. What you've been able
yeah,
to do to help them.
yeah. Thanks for stating that. Yeah. A big thing about me is a person can come to me who's had a spiritual experience that they just can't understand. And far more often than not, I'm going to have a logical explanation for them that'll completely make sense, accompanied with exercises that they can do to take it to the next level. Another common one is people were born with these gifts, like they were able to be clairvoyant, see energy, and do amazing things, but then they lost it somewhere in their life. And so then they find me and they're like, well, this guy has an A to Z intellectual track to obtaining it. And so they reobtain it. And so to a lot of people, their time studying with me was one of the most valuable things that they'll ever learn on their journey on Earth.
Yeah, it's a little bit like you described yourself sometimes because you had natural things that people you trusted said were wrong or unnatural,
Yeah,
you know, and that's what happens to people who are born with those gifts, but
yeah,
don't have enough mind of their own yet to even realize that they don't have enough mind of their own, and they pay
right.
attention to their programming, which comes from other places.
That's right.
How's your success been with the Avatar Healing Mastery Institute?
Well, it was very successful in the past before I lost it through the unfortunate events of 2019. But since the Coast to Coast interview, it's been pretty good. Things have been working out nicely.
Yes, I was just scrolling down some of the testimonials. They're phenomenal. The things
Thank
that
you.
you've done for people.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it really changes your life from the inside out when you learn these techniques. There's not one aspect of your life that is not massively enhanced by spiritualizing your perception. So the saying goes, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. Well, that's no longer true of me. I'm a spiritual being having a spiritual. I'm always spiritually connected. I have a physical body and I feel sensations from it, but they're muted by comparison. So yeah, it's a ticket to a paradisical experience of this world that we're in now, and it's your ticket out of here if you want to exit the reincarnational system. So everybody should be an energy master.
So that's a nice escape to the what to our reality we have here, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep, it's a nice addition to it and an escape.
Hmm. Sure.
This guy's been to places string theory doesn't even imagine.
Oh, I know, right?
I mean, that's just out of this world, literally.
Mhm. But
Well, just to let you guys know, my earbuds might fail me in the next 5 minutes. I just got a battery low warning today for some reason.
probably the energy. How can people get a hold of you, Michael? And is there
Oh
any
yeah. Yeah, the
website?
best way to get a hold of me is through my bio site, which is michaelmonk.bio. So that's michaelmonk.bio, michaelmonk.bio. And that leads to both of my courses, the Avatar Energy Mastery and the Metaphysical Church. Plus gives an outline of my biography and links to my demonstrations, because I do telekinetic demonstrations and stuff on YouTube and healing demonstrations and such. But yeah, that would give a person a great oversight and see if my work's correct for them.
Chip, closing comments?
I know what I'm watching tonight.
You know, on YouTube as
Who
well.
needs drones and orbs and giants and jets? You have Michael Monk to watch.
Michael, you're on
Well, it
YouTube
was
as well, right?
yes, I have a YouTube channel, a new one. I used to have an old one, but I lost it. I had 17,000 subscribers, and now I have like 800. But it'll grow.
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
Michael Monk.
Ah, easy enough.
Yeah. Well, it was great to meet you guys and interact with you. You guys are great souls,
Thank you so
Wow.
much.
and you got a good synergy between you two.
Oh, there's
Awesome.
a love, man.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a while since Chip and I have been on together, and it's been
It's-
a great reunion.
Yeah, I just
Awesome.
unconscionably long time.
Yeah.
And
Well, if you guys are interested in any of my courses, I always give people that interview me access to my intellectual materials for free. So just send out an email if you're interested in studying my material, and I'll give you free membership since you were the host of this interview.
Sounds great. Your website is michaelmonk.bio, is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
and
Awesome.
Michael Monk on YouTube.
Yep.
And everybody knows where Chippy's going from here.
That's
Thank you
great.
so
Well,
much,
look
Michael.
forward to seeing you then.
All
Say
right.
that again, buddy.
I said it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my honor. You guys have a most blessed evening. We'll have to do this again in the future.
Oh,
Definitely.
please, yes.
Thank you,
By all
Michael.
means.
Great.
Bye,
Yeah.
guys.
Bye bye.
Take care. Our newfound best friend. We
Yeah.
love you.
Time for me to fly. I've got to set myself free. Time for me to fly. Maybe that's just how it's got to be. Though it hurt to say goodbye, but it's time for me to fly. It's time for me to fly. Oh, I've got to set myself Free time for me to fly. Baby, that's just how it got to be. Whoa, I know it hurts to say goodbye, but it's time for me to fly. Time for me to fly. High, high, high. Time for me to fly. Time for me to fly. Time for me to fly. It's time for me to fly. Time for me to fly. Time for me to fly. It's time for me to fly. Oh, baby, yes it is.